This is how it starts. A friend sees something free on Facebook. It isn't a horse, but an antique secretary. And she sends me a message, and then I send my delivery guy a message, and it's a race to see if we can get the item for free. Success. Picked up this beautiful petite secretary for free. Now I paid my delivery guy, but can't beat it. So I'm just checking it out. I have lots of furniture here to paint right now, but I'm just going to see about this one because I have an idea, and I really have been so busy with the retail store at, this time of year that I haven't had much time to paint. So I'm really anxious to get my hands on something, and I do love a good secretary. I'm checking out that inside section. Usually they come out. We'll look at it more later, but I'm going to get started cleaning. This is one of those times when I want to jump right into that design on the front to get me started and to give me some inspiration. I'm super anxious to get started. Look at the stuff that came off of that. It looked clean, but you always have to clean your pieces. It also lets you know whether they're going to be a bleeder or not, in which case I thought this probably will be, so I used a coat of Dixie Belle's Boss, a stain blocking primer, just to make sure that I block the tannins in the wood and I don't get bleed through. I ran out of white Boss. I was finishing up a jar, so I started on some gray. And that's fine. You're not going to see it anyway. My original plan was just to paint the bottom and then get started on that and do the rest later, but I decided to go ahead and prime the whole thing. I know it makes sense to everyone else, but when I get in I need to create mood, sometimes I don't make sense. First time using this color on a piece of furniture, Dixie Belle's Cobblestone from the Cottage collection, but I did use it on a wall in my home, and I love it because it has the feeling to me of sort of like a vintage paper, a vintage postcard, or the way an old photo gets. At least that's what I get from it. Using that Boss was a good idea because I only needed basically one jar of paint to get this whole piece covered. I did use a second coat, but it just really didn't need a lot more paint than that because of the stain blocking primer. So I am determined to use the Botanist transfer. I held it up widthwise to the piece, which is kind of why I was excited to get started, and it fit. So I didn't really figure out exactly how it was going to work lengthwise, but I knew I'd figure it out. So right now I'm just trimming off those excess pieces. I let the piece sit overnight because you always like your paint to be good and dry before you do a transfer. I had pulled those drawers out because I had painted the front all at once, and I'm now closing them. So it was a good idea to do that so that my drawers didn't stick shut. So now I'm just kind of laying out my design and deciding how I'm going to do this. So the whole design fits on the bottom 3 drawers. But I don't really want all the action down there. I thought about it, and I thought maybe I could use some molds. I was thinking of the Juliet mold, which is a beautiful rose mold, on the top of the drop down of the desk part. But that's really the focal point. So I kind of was hoping I could get some of the transfer on that part. So I keep fooling around with it, and I eventually come up with a solution. So I'm still fitting. So if I do this, if I put the top part on, and then I put the bottom part below, it's going to leave a gap or else have me working over some really uneven surfaces. So I think that I've come up with a solution, and I decide to trim the transfer very carefully. It's easy to determine the middle because of the keyhole, and then I place it on the bottom just so that I know that it's even. Those grid lines really make it easy to do that. I begin to carefully burnish the transfer using the little stick that comes in the package. It goes a little over the edges, which is fine. I just make that design go over the edge. I cut it halfway through just to make it a little bit easier so I don't have all that excess plastic. I just love these delicate roses, and I think they look fantastic against that cobblestone color. I'm excited about this one. If you don't press it into place too hard initially, if you decide it needs repositioned, you can pick it up and reposition it. So pretty. Now I need to figure out the rest. I figure if I start at the bottom, it should work out. And it really works out pretty good. Now I kind of guesstimate the middle a little bit more on this side, although it's pretty easy to do. So there's a lot of writing inside that frame. It's a little tricky to match everything up, but that's what I focus on when it comes to matching. Not gonna lie, it took a minute to line this transfer up and to attach it. When I get done with this piece, I have little pieces that didn't transfer off, and that ended up being sort of a blessing, because down at the bottom, even though the letters all transferred off, I used these little remains to fix the wreath down at the bottom where it didn't quite meet, or the swag. So I just attach or apply those little pieces, and it totally fixes that little situation. Don't worry sometimes about little details, because you can fix them very inconspicuously a lot of times with paint, or you can distress it with sandpaper afterwards and take care of some little details as well. If you distress the rest of the piece, you can easily distress the transfer, and then it looks very intentional. This worked out really well, and I'm glad I decided to split up the transfer. I think the design still works. There's that little section which I don't love, and I'll fix that with paint or sandpaper. So there was some, I don't know, like rings or something, water rings on the bottom of the hutch part. So I just decided to paint that out, because I sort of had painted the sides out anyway. So I'm taking my phone camera to see exactly how that insert is attached, and I see that it's in there with a flathead screw. But I also see that part of the screw is buried in the wood. So guess what? I worked on it a little bit, and then I made the decision that I was going to leave that wood natural and just oil it, and then I was going to paint the base of the desk. It also was not in great shape, so that way I could just paint the base and get as far underneath that insert as I could, and the rest is going to remain natural. So I like this solution, and meanwhile I'm soaking that hardware in vinegar. So here I'm just taking Big Mama's butter and a brush and getting in all of those little sections of the insert, and it's just brightening the wood up and just taking care of just little imperfections in the wood and just making it look really nice and new again. I decide the inside of the desk needs something, so I use part of the IOD Rose Toile stamp, and I'm using ink in turmeric. At first I was going to put just a little bit of random design, and then as my design grew, I ended up doing a whole full-on toile situation, as you'll see. As you watch, I'm going to do a shameless plug for my channel membership. In the new year, I have all kinds of plans for exclusive content for channel members only. So those that belong already, you're going to get a good surprise, and surprises await for newbies as well. It's only 99 cents a month to join. So now I'm just taking a razor blade and going along the glass. So if you watched me paint, you're probably thinking, why didn't she tape that off or take the glass out? Well, you know me. But I really think that it's much easier to just paint the glass and take that razor blade and clean up the glass afterwards. It's a lot quicker in my estimation, and definitely a lot easier than removing the whole thing. I love this glass cleaner that's foam. It doesn't drip, and I really like that. So, yeah, the insert in there, I had considered removing the doors completely for the look of the piece, but the more I kept the wood, then I kept that feature as well. I sort of wish I hadn't painted the feet, but that was an afterthought. So I'm just opening up those doors or drawers to get in there to put my hardware back on. Since I left a lot of it natural and the drawers are kind of snug, I'm just sanding the tops of the drawers. I use some easy peasy spray wax. Remember to shake it until you can't hear it anymore. Then you know it's all mixed up and ready to go. This provides a sealer for this surface. Then I take some gilding wax in bronze and a small artist brush and just touch up the hardware on the inside of the desk and also on the outside and the handles. But now I'm using some more easy peasy spray wax to seal my transfer in and the outside of the piece. I also use some brown wax around the edges, in the corners, around the handles, and any places that look like they would wear. I am loving the vintage touch that it gives this color and this transfer. Just loving it. I take out each drawer and use Big Mama's butter. I'm using Suzanne's Garden because it smells like roses. And a big brush, and I use it in the drawer glides and also on the underside of the drawers and all throughout the drawers. It's going to freshen it up. It's going to make the wood look great and make it smell great as well. It also makes these drawers glide much easier. And now for some finishing touches. I have some wooden beads and a tassel. So I'm taking my pliers. These are jewelry pliers. And I'm just putting them in there to hold them while I paint. Took me a minute to figure out which way I wanted to do it. But this way I don't have to touch the bead when it's wet. So I coat everything I can, and then I slide it onto a paper clip that I've opened up. repeat with the other 2 beads. I can now touch up any of the places that I missed. And then for the last trick, I take the end that was bent over and I insert the beads, and I also insert the loop of the tassel. Then I can easily pull all the beads through. Remember how this secretary started out? Well, take a look at it now. I think it's a beauty. You're going to have to let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Find us on social media at Statement Designs and on the web at statementdesigns.org. Stay well.